Hi, my name's Andy Behar. I'm the CEO of As You Sow, as in So Shall Ye Reap. We're an environmental advocacy group based in San Francisco. And basically, we were founded in 1992 because we believe that a lot of the issues, a lot of the environmental and social problems, a lot of the environmental degradation to the planet is a result of corporate, either looking for short-term profits, in some cases malfeasance, but a lot of times it's just negligence. And so we believe that there's a lot of different ways you can work with corporations. And because, everybody's, all the things you've heard today, all these bottles, all these plastic bottles, all this plastic is being made by somebody for a reason. And there's a lot of it. And so we look at it in this way, that there's a lot of ways you have to come at a corporation in order to make them change. It's not just asking them nicely. We've heard about a consumer campaign that people can change the way they buy, and that's very, very powerful. We think of it as, if you think of a chessboard, that there's a king on the chessboard, and if you want to get him to move to one square, you got to come at it from many angles. So we come at him from a shareholder angle, so we file shareholder resolutions. We actually gather large quantities of shares, and we file resolutions that are on the proxies. You probably have all gotten proxies in at your mail at home, and you probably have thrown them away, or actually with this crowd, you probably recycled them. But those are your votes. Those are your telling the corporate board and management what you want to do. So we put things on the resolutions, on these ballots, that on all kinds of ways. So they hear from their shareholders, and that's one way of approaching them. Another way is through litigation. And we litigate specifically on Prop 65 in California, and what that's about is specifically carcinogenics, and a lot of things you've heard about today, like formaldehyde in baby shampoo. Those are some of the cases we've done, toluene in nail polish. And we invite you all to, if you know of products that are using carcinogenic materials, let us know. We litigate on those, and basically that's to put warnings or to reformulate. So we litigate. Another angle is through policy, and that's right now we're working on a campaign there's a lot of EPA decisions going on. So if you think of it, this king has got only one square left to move into. When the shareholders are saying do something, when the consumers are saying do something, when there's policy, when there's lawsuits, they kind of get the message that there's one square to move into, and we call that square integrity. And it's not always where they want to move, but it is a place that is ultimately beneficial for the corporation. I'll give you some examples. I'm supposed to click on this. This is what we call, these are what we call little clusters of impact. And you'll see down there there's what looks like a computer that's been lost out at sea. We do a lot of work in electronic waste. So this was about an 8 or 9 year campaign where we got Apple, HP, Dell, Best Buy, all to agree through shareholder resolutions, through all kinds of pressures, that they should take back their electronic waste, their electronics at the end of its life. It keeps 500,000 tons of electronic waste out of landfills every year. So there's a lot of heavy metals that are not going into landfills. Down there you see some redwoods. We worked with Home Depot, and we worked with some of our allies to put pressure on them as well. So as shareholders, we went in and we said, look, here's the economic argument. You don't have to cut down these redwoods. There's farmed forests. You can still sell wood, but there's a much better way to do it. And through some time and some pressure, they said, you know what? Let's do that. And so Home Depot no longer sells any old growth lumber, and because they did, now Lowe's does. So you can actually make some movement. Some of these other areas up here, the one I'm going to be talking about mostly, this is some work we're doing with fracking. We're filing with Exxon and Range Resources. I don't know if you know what hydrofracking is, but it's a method of extracting natural gas that uses a lot of water, and there's all kinds of toxic chemicals being put into the water streams. And it's something that we're filing and working with them. We also do a lot of work with coal, and we're basically approaching coal from the angle of there's 130 million tons of coal that are coal ash that's made every year, and that gets put into these giant slurry ponds that hold about 2 billion gallons. Probably most of you have heard about the TVA spill, where one of these giant ponds broke its retaining walls and buried a town in Kingston, Tennessee. And there's the EPA is now deciding about what to do about coal ash. And so, but what I want to talk about mostly is the area that we've been working with, which is beverage. And we've been working with most of the major manufacturers of beverage. It's about 8 years now. We're working with Coke, Pepsi, Nestle Water. They make about, in the United States, 72 billion plastic bottles a year are sold in the United States. Of those, about half, 36 billion, are made by Coke, Pepsi, and Nestle Water. So they're really the big players in this. And I know recycling is not the best thing. Recycling, implies that they're just going to keep making stuff. And we agree, and we are starting into a whole new negotiation work with them on what we call extended producer responsibility, which means to redesign the entire product, all the packaging, so that there is zero waste. That is ultimately where we want to get. But the steps that are being taken and the commitments that these companies have made will be, starting in 2015, they'll be recycling Coke and Pepsi 50%, Nestle Water 60% of those plastic bottles. So it's about 18 billion bottles that they're going to be pulling back. They're going to be grinding up. They're going to be making PET bottles, making them back into PET bottles. So it's a start. And this is just like the reality of it, is the folks who are actually making this stuff need a plan. They need a step-by-step, year-by-year plan, and they need groups like us to make sure that they adhere to the plan and to help negotiate the plan. So that's what we do. So we represent shareholders. So the idea of As You Sow is to really become that voice at the table with the corporations, and to try to figure out solutions that are real, that actually can last, because they're not going to go away. And consumer pressure is probably one of the biggest things that can help. I think the decision from all the people watching around the world to not buy things in plastics is going to have a major impact, and definitely can help. And you see how, I remember we used to be able to have Coca-Colas in bottles, and they had you could recycle them, and but then this whole idea of no deposit, no return, was this modern new idea that we all thought was really wonderful and clean, but turns out to have a lot of ramifications. One other thing I wanted to share with you on our coal campaign is messaging, and this is something for, I think, everybody who has a progressive agenda. It's really important to not be just speaking to the choir. I think there's a lot of people who are self-identified environmentalists who are driving Priuses and recycling using bags, not using plastic bags, but there's a whole lot of people out there who just don't see that there's a problem. And it's really important to address that. In the case of this coal ash, right now we're in this period until November 19th that the Environmental Protection Agency is deciding whether to dewater all these ponds to prevent another TVA disaster or not. And what we found is that people who are actually living there, who are threatened by these, are they're really, because this vote, they don't want to be identified as environmentalists. We came up with a way of talking to them that they could agree with, and rather than saying coal is bad, we realized that what we have in common is safe American communities. And so we went down, we talked to a lot of people in these areas, we talked to people who would not go with a campaign that was green, that was environmental, but they would support safe American communities. And so what we're doing is we're trying to message, our message, if we can put it out to a broader audience, if we can, where there's always been, a chasm, if we can reach across and embrace through good messaging, I think that we can make a lot of progress, because I think that you'll find that a lot of people really agree. Nobody wants to put, poisons on their bodies in the form of cosmetics or in the form of whatever it is they're using that we've heard about today. So there is agreement. It's just a matter of there's words getting in our way, and so it's really important to realize that as we try to make change, and that's what we're really about. Is how do you make change? And thank you very much for having me here to talk about this. And we're going to continue our work. We've got campaigns also on bisphenol A. We've been working with. We actually filed with Coca-Cola on their use of bisphenol A in their Coca-Cola cans. And we just published a report. If you go to the asyousow.org website, you can download a report on bisphenol A, where we ranked all the companies that make canned food on their plans to stop using bisphenol A, and we're going to be coming out with a whole campaign around that and around other toxics. And also, again, we're going to continue litigating on Prop 65. So we're going to make change as much as we can. We're going to work with corporations. We're going to litigate. We're going to come at them from every possible angle, and we think that's the way to actually have some impact. So thank you very much.